Update. Am I the a-hole for skipping my own birthday dinner? Original post. So a little backstory. I, 25 female, and my husband Vernon, 36, have been married for 5 years. It was arranged by my grandfather and his uncle. We are not Americans, so it's common here. Vernon wasn't too thrilled about the marriage, and he made it very clear because he was already in a relationship with Felicity, 30s female. Long story short, Vernon, his family, and Felicity did their best to make my life hell, while my dumb self was stuck on the idea that one day he might change. About 3 years ago, I found out I was pregnant and I was excited, but he wasn't. Given we only been intimate a handful of times before that, so he got into his head that it wasn't his. The baby had complications and I had to get a medical abortion. Not once did he or his family came to the hospital. And I guess that opened my eyes and I just stopped caring. I stopped trying. Then early last year, he suddenly started caring, coming home early, calling me, bringing me flowers, and it was quite uncomfortable for me. Then he tells me that he's had a change of heart and wants to try to better our marriage because he's developed feelings for me? It's all fishy, to be honestly. I wouldn't trust this man as far as I can throw him. He's been doing these little things, and I just can't help but think there's a joke coming at my expense. Now on to the story. It was my birthday last weekend, and Vernon told me his family was hosting me a birthday dinner. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, and the last time I was at his parents', they literally told me my baby's complications were my fault, and kicked me out because Felicity was uncomfortable. Not to mention that they haven't apologized, just started acting friendly. I kept telling him no, but he kept insisting. Then I let it go, and I assumed that was that. So I made plans and went out with my mom and cousins, and he starts calling me asking me where I am. I tell him, and he tells me that he's waiting for me. What? Long story short, his family is mad that I skipped, because they apparently wanted to apologize so that we could move forward. And Vernon keeps saying he understands why I did it, but he has been apologizing for everything and nothing. And last night, Felicity called to cuss me out because they left her high and dry, and Vernon wants nothing to do with her. So maybe they did want to apologize. I thought I was in the right, but now even my cousins are telling me I was wrong for skipping, and now I'm doubting myself. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Did I get this right? Arranged marriage, but your husband already had a girlfriend? He treats you poorly and doesn't believe this kid is his? I know you lost it, but it's still sad. You and his family don't get along. I hope you can get out and find someone who truly loves you, not a-hole. If it was arranged, that may not be an option. That is what makes this much more sad. Info, 'cause I'm nosy. Why doesn't his family like you, or at least tolerate you, if they are the ones who made the arrangements? Was it that the uncle was the patriarch and his parents felt they had no choice but to go along? Like, what is their endgame? To get you to call quits so it won't be their son's fault the marriage failed? Yes, his uncle is the head of the family and doesn't like Felicity because she's not from our culture. Vernon didn't go against his uncle because it would lead to his shunning. Marrying me had benefits, such as the house we live in and a piece of land in the farming areas. So I guess that was it. His uncle mentioned to the family that the only way the marriage would end was if I was to initiate it. I didn't know about any of this, and everything has started making more sense now. Not a-hole. Even if they were sincere, a birthday party is not the place to apologize. I understand your hesitation, as that's perfect place for ambush. They can come to you and apologize if that was their intent. Also, block the girlfriend. Why was she still around if he's now married? He's love bombing you. Find out why. I ask, and all he says is he wants to make amends and make up for lost times. Like that's my fault. Felicity is blocked and will stay so. No, he wants something. Don't trust him. See if there's any way out from this situation. Maybe a women group that can help you escape. Now for the first update. Wow, I wasn't expecting this to get as much attention as it has. I am overwhelmed, and I'm sorry if I don't manage to reply to everyone. Thank you for your kind words and advice. Some more info on my family because I saw repeating questions in the comments. My family didn't know about most of what was going on, as I chose to not tell them. But they still found out, and are still willing to handle the effects of me leaving. But I can't let them do that. Everyone is happy and this would disrupt their lives greatly. I can't bring myself to do that, especially to my little nieces. A few hours after I made the post, I decided to have a talk with Vernon after I came home from work. It went somewhat okay. I followed some advice and comments about starting over on my terms. I asked him questions I needed answers to, and he gave me answers. I wasn't completely satisfied, but it's a start. I told him I would give our marriage a chance, but he had to know that he was completely done with Felicity and would be completely on board with this. I told him to stop with the love bombing because it was making me uncomfortable. Told him I would absolutely not be having kids in the near future, and told him I was in no way ready to be his wife and we would continue with our separate rooms. Surprisingly, he was on board with all of this and said that he wasn't a boy anymore and that he was getting older and he needed to sort himself out and make things right. I asked him if he only had a change of heart because he wanted me to take care of him in his old age, and he said no. He said he realized that Felicity isn't what he's always wanted and started seeing her manipulative, toxic ways. His words. He said he was willing to put the house in only my name entirely, as it's currently 40% mine, as a way of showing that he is all in and would mess up if I give us a second chance. He said he was willing to give me as much space as I need. He said he'll have a word with his family about me needing time and space and taking baby steps. Honestly, I don't know where this will go at this point. I don't know the direction in which we are headed, but I'm willing to try so I can have a free conscience. I've started making a backup plan to leave, but that's in the worst case scenario. I'll update if anything significant happens. Now for the second update 3 weeks later. Hey everyone! So a few things happened that I thought you all needed to know. First off, I'd like to thank everyone for your care and support. I never thought I'd cry after reading words, but you have no idea how much courage your kind words have given me. I told Vernon to go through with the transferring of the house in my name, and he did. I guess he knew he would be getting more money, but now I own the house. Still, nobody was telling me anything about the 180 change. So I decided to go to Felicity, which is stupid, I know, but she was the only one who was willing to give me any information, since she's spiteful, and I think I got what I needed. It's not much, but it's enough to cement my decision. Turns out, Felicity had her womb removed when she was younger, so she can't give Vernon children, and the whole family found out and turned against her. The uncle has been speaking of retiring, and Vernon has been at war with the uncle's sons to either take over the business or become one of the decision makers, and a child would guarantee that he would be given a large sum of the company's shares that would be in his name and a child's. And since Felicity couldn't give him one, that was the solution. Felicity told me as much as she knew, so I went to one of Vernon's cousins. I confronted him about what Felicity said, and after a heated back and forth, he finally confirmed everything. I don't know why, but that hurt. Even though I knew it was too good to be true, I still held on to hope that maybe I was wrong. After conversation, I decided to play along until I could get out. He completely cut off Felicity, and it's scary just how much he's acting like she never existed. I put in a transfer to a city 12 hours away from here. My head teacher knows my situation and swore not to tell them. I brought up moving to my family, and majority of them said I'd be selfish if I did that. And their whole lives are here and all that. But honestly, I feel I should put myself first, but told them it was just a thought and that I would never do that. My mom and brother have been my biggest support system, and I'm taking them with me. My cousin is moving with my little nieces to his wife's city. So that's that. I found a house where my mom, brother, 2 cousins, and I will stay. I then listed the house for sale on a private auction page. This will cause a big blowout, but I won't be here for it, so lol. I'll leave this place in about 40 days, and the most tiring thing is to get my affairs in order without raising suspicion. I refused to be intimate with Vernon and told him I wasn't ready. He told me we'll work on my time, but I see him getting more and more frustrated each day. Even though I'm scared for myself and my family and what they will do when they find out, I've decided to leave and not changing my mind. I'm still young, and I honestly don't want to end up like my mother, in a loveless marriage with a cheating alcoholic. It took the words of internet strangers for me to realize that, and I'm so grateful. Sorry if this is all over the place. I'll update if anything changes. Now for more comments before the last update. I'm so glad you have a plan to get out. One more suggestion I will make, and it may sound absolutely horrible, but if you can get on some kind of birth control in case Vernon does the absolutely worst thing a man can do to a woman, you've got some protection from pregnancy. Stay safe, OP. Oh, wow. I have to totally agree with this. Please take any and all precautions to prevent pregnancy. If a child is all that your husband is after, he may do the unthinkable to get one. I'm not sure what country you are in, but he may have a say over your future if you do get pregnant. Be careful, and please update when you are safely away. Go and save yourself and your loved ones, OP. With the latest info you've found, I think down the road when Vernon has secured his wealth/inheritance, there is very high possibility Felicity will come back into the picture and you will be removed or be in a loveless marriage and a third wheel in your own marriage. Stay safe. Now for the last update after 2 more weeks. Hello again. I didn't think I would be making an update this soon, but I messed up big time. I've never been so scared in my life. So a couple of days after I made last update, my sister-in-law found a post and showed it to Vernon. I knew my time was up, that I had to make a move. So I let my mom and brother know that we had to be ready to leave at any moment. Vernon was not happy, and he made it very clear. He told me we were to have a family meeting the next day, and I just knew we had to get out. When he went to attend evening prayers, I gathered all important belongings I had and told mom and brother to get ready because we had to leave. I gave them the information they needed to leave in case I didn't make it. We had a meeting in the afternoon and it wasn't pretty. The uncle came, and he was angry that I brought shame to the family with my actions, and everyone took that as a green light. I ended up with a split lip and a dislocated shoulder and a few broken ribs, but at least I didn't go down without a fight. Looking back, I feel proud of myself. I spoke up for myself. I defended myself and the people I love. I honestly thought I wasn't going to come out alive. I couldn't breathe properly. I couldn't move. And for a while, I just thought of ending myself because I was in so much pain. But my mom and brother managed to get me out. I don't know how. I don't remember a lot because my memory became foggy. But I got out and I'm alive. We reached our new home. My family's still adjusting and I'm still healing. I hope I heal in time to start working. We are safe. And even though I'm scared that they might find us, I'm relieved and I feel free. I just thought I'd let everyone know how I'm doing. A lot has happened in so little time that sometimes I feel like it's a dream and I'll snap back to reality. I won't say much, and I don't think I'll make more posts after this one. Thank you all. Thank you to everyone who supported me. Thank you for your kind words. Thank you for making me realize that I deserved more, that I am worth more. To all the women that shared their stories with me, you all gave me the courage that I needed to stand up for myself. No words can ever express my gratitude to you internet strangers. Also, thank you to the gentleman who asked me out to lunch, lol. Grace, I know you'll see this. I don't hate you. Just know that you're a woman and you'll also get married, but I hope your husband's family doesn't treat you the way you treated me. I wish I could be there to see the look on all your faces when the new owner of the house comes and kicks your beloved brother out of his place. I wish you everything you deserve in all your future endeavors. F you, Grace. I hope you and your family get everything you guys deserve. I'm so happy Opie's out and has supportive people around her. Hopefully she never has to deal with X or his garbage family again. F that entire family. So nice to not have to follow AITA rules about civility, but there's nothing civil that can be said about most people involved in a situation like this. I hope Opie and her family are able to stay safe from those monsters. I'm a petty person, so I'm hoping that Opie at some point can get some revenge, like organize a meeting for that uncle or give him diarrhea or some such. I remember reading that last post and being terrified that this would happen. Like the most dangerous time with an abuser is when you leave, and it's not over. I wish Opie all the best and pray for her safety. So proud that she was able to get out, and I hope she presses charges against the monster for what he did to her. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my younger brother that I'm not his dad? I'm 19 and my younger brother, we'll call Ed, is 6. My father, 49, has been in and out of our lives for the past 6 years. He was working abroad and providing for us during that time. But us kids have slowly started to forget his presence around the house. Then in 2021, he had a huge fight with my mother, 48, and decided to leave us under the guise of visiting his relative's funeral, and we haven't seen him since. It's been very tough for my mother, who's tried her utmost best to make the best of such an awful situation for us kids without much help. So me and my sibling, who are mostly a bunch of teens, have tried our best to make things generally easier for her, including assisting in raising Ed. Ed always used to call me by my name, but recently, like a few months ago, he's picked up the habit of calling me Dad. It felt very awkward at first, but after some thought, I figured it was an honest mistake. I didn't pay much attention to it. But it didn't stop there. Ed started calling me Dad more, whether it was in private or whether it was in front of the family, and I was extremely confused. So earlier this afternoon, I picked him up from his school. When we reached home, I went to my mother and jokingly said, "This random child has been following me the entire time. I think he's lost." We have a way of joking that I think is pretty wholesome. I'm sure he enjoys it too. And then playfully tugged me on the arm and said, "How dare you say that? I'm your son." Now here's where I might be the a-hole. I didn't want him to grow up believing that I was something I'm not. So I gently responded, "Ed, I'm not your dad. I'm your older brother, okay? We share the same mother." Ed replied, "You're my dad now, because my real dad is never coming back." Hearing that tore my heart, and I didn't know how to respond. So I hugged him, but he didn't seem too happy and left. My mother pulled me aside later and told me that I shouldn't have said what I said, and that I have hurt his feelings. I tried to explain that as much as I understand his feelings, I wanted him to know who we truly are to each other. I didn't want to devastate him later in life. I also mentioned how awkward it made me feel. She said that maybe Ed is calling me dad not because I'm his actual father, but maybe because I'm one of the safest masculine examples he's got. Upon reflection, I'm starting to feel very guilty about what I did. I think my mother is right. Perhaps I was a little too harsh. I need some people to talk sense into me. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. While he may see you as a father figure, it's okay that you don't want the title. Social-wise, calling a 19-year-old dad and a 48-year-old mom could also be very awkward. Your mother should look into family counseling, or even individual for your brother. That's a heavy load for you all. Never mind when the 19-year-old also calls her mom. Mom likely won't always be there. For example, if it's OP taking his brother to the park alone. Yeah, but sometimes she will, and in those situations, things can get very awkward. Also, a 6-year-old and a 19-year-old can still be a hard situation to deal with if there are unpleasant people around that would judge OP because they assume he is a teen dad. To be fair, the only thing that's saving me from that are my looks. I look like in my late 20s, so it's nothing crazy when people see me take my little brother out for ice cream, for example. My 15-year-old brother even told me that his classmates assumed I was his dad upon first sight. Taking away my bell got my manager fired. Original post. I'm a night auditor at a hotel. My job mostly consists of sitting in the back, watching the cameras, printing out papers for accounting, and assisting guests who arrive in the dead of night. I work from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. and am generally alone in the building, except for security, who is just one guy that only mostly shows up for his scheduled shifts. This job has been perfect for me. I struggle in most workplaces due to my blend of disabilities, which make waking up on time extremely difficult. Even showing up to work can be a challenge. And when I do, I often struggle to keep up with workloads. Because I work at night, I don't have to worry about oversleeping, and since my job primarily involves printing papers and customer service, I don't have to stress about being overwhelmed. My previous manager encouraged me to bring my Switch to work because it can get extremely boring. She made it clear that as long as I wasn't bothering guests, was on time, and got my work done, it didn't really matter what I did. She also mentioned that there was a bell in the dining area that the cooks used, and I could place it at the front desk so guests could easily alert me when they needed assistance while I was in the back. However, my previous manager left the company about a month ago, and our new front desk manager is an external hire. She sent her first message to the team about a week ago, and about 70% of it was her ranting about how unacceptable the use of the bell was. When she saw my sign that said, "Please ring the bell for service," she announced that anyone using the bell would receive a write-up. I have pretty severe ADHD, which significantly impacts my work performance. I don't always check the cameras frequently, so I can't always tell when a guest arrives at the front desk. While I'd love to get medication to help, the waiting list for evaluation is 1.5 years long. Since I just got approved for company health insurance, I still have a long wait ahead of me. Maybe it sounds silly, but that bell is a huge help. It's quiet, distinctive, and immediately lets me know when I need to get up and assist someone. I haven't told my manager that it helps with my disability, but I did mention that it's useful for me. Regardless, if I don't have a bell out there for guests to use, there are only 3 possible outcomes when someone arrives at the front desk. The guest waits until I check the cameras, which could take a while because, again, memory issues. The guest walks into an employee-only area to look for me, inevitably scaring the heck out of me and looking extremely unprofessional. The guest yells, "Hello," to try to get someone's attention. None of these scenarios are ideal. To me, the easiest and most logical solution is to allow guests to ring a bell to notify me politely. However, my manager has made it crystal clear that this will not be happening, and I really don't want to get written up. While I could sit at the front desk all night, that would mean I wouldn't be able to monitor the cameras at all. Additionally, I wouldn't feel safe doing so. The front desk is positioned directly in front of a massive window, and we're in a shady part of town. I know I would have people coming in to harass me. It's happened before. I just want to keep the stupid bell. I don't understand why it's such a big deal if it helps me do my job more efficiently. But I don't know how to explain to my manager that a $5 bell from Amazon is an effective disability aid without sounding ridiculous. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Your manager is a moron. It's not even a disability aid, it's a common-sense good service tool for after hours. I'd write a message to your manager saying how helpful you find the bell and outline exactly the points in your last paragraph. How being at the desk and an invitation to non-guests to try and get in, security issue. Maybe get the security staff to sign off that they agree having you waiting in the back is safer, and that you'd lose access to the cameras. Definitely mention previous examples of sexual harassment. Then say how customers seem to appreciate having a way to get your attention. That way, customers can feel like they are getting service, started even before you come out of the back. Make it clear that you are trying to figure out how to offer customers the best experience possible. I'd CC their boss, owner, regional manager, whoever. Do not address their boss, but put them on the email. Just address your manager and say how you want to give customers the best service possible. And if your bell is going to be taken away, you'd like them to help you come up with alternative solutions. I'm sure a huge part of her reasoning is that, because she's new and an external hire, she feels the need to establish authority. Stupid office politics. Thanks for the advice. I always struggle to phrase things professionally. Fortunately, I have a good rapport with the general manager. The moron is just the front desk manager, not the GM. So I think she'll see my side of things. Now for the first update. So, I guess I'm kind of looking for help. I think I might have dug myself into a hole here, and I really need this job. So back in September, my manager left for another job. Everyone was heartbroken, but of course we all wished her the best, and she left on good terms. For about 2 months, the front desk reported directly to the general manager, GM, who became less and less responsive to messages and calls. At one point, a guest approached me, complaining that their car had been stolen from our parking garage. They had been promised they would get to speak with the GM about the incident, but she never showed up. I sent an email to the GM immediately, furious that she had not responded to the guest and upset that my repeated calls to her over the last 2 weeks had been ignored. I told her she had to come in that day to discuss things with the guest, as they were checking out the next morning. I also said I expected an update since it happened during my shift, and I needed to know how to respond to similar situations in the future. I got no response, and she did not come to the hotel that day, so I emailed HR, letting them know I was unable to get in touch with her and needed assistance as soon as possible. That finally lit a fire under the GM, and the situation was eventually dealt with, though I never got my update. Then about a month and a half ago, we got a new front desk manager, who I'll call Mary. Her introduction to the team was off-putting. She started with a standard introduction, but then immediately went on a rant about the bell. She saw my sign that said, "Please ring the bell for service," and went off about how it was ludicrous and absurdly unprofessional. She said she had thrown the sign away and that if she ever saw something like that again, the person responsible would face disciplinary action. Additionally, she took away the keyboards for the computers in the back office, making them functionally unusable for everyone else. This was, of course, an absolute power trip. A bell is a normal thing to see at a hotel front desk, but even putting that aside, it has been a game changer for my disability. I have really bad time blindness and often forget to check the cameras for extended periods. The bell is the only thing that immediately gets my attention and gets me to the front desk right away. I figured that if I explained this to Mary, she'd understand, so I sent her a message clarifying that the bell helps me with my disability. I didn't go into too many details, just told her that I can be forgetful, and the bell ensures I don't miss guests when I'm in the back office. I also mentioned that I would like access to the back office computers again. Mary responded that it doesn't matter. I am not allowed to use the bell. I reminded her that as a disabled employee, I am entitled to reasonable accommodations, but she wasn't having it. She demanded that I get a doctor's note for the stupid bell or take it up with the GM. She also completely ignored my questions about the keyboards. On top of that, she told me that if I was struggling with focus, I should remove my distractions. This was incredibly upsetting to hear. Not just because I didn't ask for her advice on how to manage my disability, but also because that is not how my illness works. At this point, I probably should have taken a step back, but I was frustrated. I sent an email to the GM explaining that I would like to use the bell because it prevents guests from wandering into employee-only areas or yelling to get my attention, and I would like it to be approved as a disability aid. I also made it clear that I do not appreciate Mary giving me unsolicited advice about my medical condition. GM responded harshly, demanding to know why I wasn't staying at the front desk, why I wasn't checking the cameras, and stating that the bell has never been allowed. She also asked why I didn't disclose my disability in my interview. This question shocked me. No employee is ever required to disclose a disability before being hired, unless it prevents them from performing their job duties. As a manager, she should know this. I reiterated that I wasn't required to disclose anything during my interview, and that my disability causes forgetfulness, which is not something I can control. I also stressed that I have never been told I am required to remain at the front desk for my entire shift. This has never been the case for me or anyone else I've worked night audit with. I also CC'd HR to ensure they were aware of everything. HR responded, saying if I wanted accommodations, I needed a doctor's note. However, they did not acknowledge GM's out-of-pocket request to know why I hadn't disclosed my disability. GM then denied ever asking me about my disability disclosure, despite it being right there in our email chain. She said I needed to respect Mary's authority since she has years of experience in the industry. On top of that, she said I was now required to remain at the front desk for my entire shift. Then, out of nowhere, she claimed that Mary had accused me of hooking my laptop up to the work monitors to play video games. This was completely false. Yes, I've used my laptop for games, but my previous manager explicitly told me that was allowed. I have never connected my laptop to the work computers. I told GM as much and reiterated that my frustration with Mary was due to her giving me unsolicited advice on how to manage my medical condition, not her experience as a manager. I also pointed out how weird it was that Mary never addressed this supposed workplace violation with me directly. If I had actually been doing something wrong, shouldn't she have discussed it with me first? I haven't received a response to this email, and it's been 3 weeks. At this point, I'm not sure what to do. Did I completely screw myself over? Should I just go ahead and get a doctor's note? If I do, should I even bother fighting for the stupid bell at this point? I still want my bell back, but it's not worth losing my job over. I have ADHD-related time blindness too. I use a 5233 vibrating traceable timer, which I've got set to count down from 15 minutes and then get my attention with a blinking light. It also has beeps and vibration, but I have them switched off. You do need an appropriate medical professional to send a letter to HR saying that you have a disability that requires X, Y, and Z, and that other tools to help you with attention-related issues, as needed, are medically necessary. And you probably want to give a copy to Mary and GM in case HR doesn't tell them. Also, if it's been a while since you got your diagnosis, your psychiatrist or whatever might have been operating under rules that made them choose either ADHD or autism. But it's possible to have both, and some of the ways you're hoping for management to respond seem familiar to me. Management tends not to put anything in email if they're not sure if it'll bite them in the butt later. This is a great idea. My phone timer just doesn't click for me for some reason, so I'll see how that works for me. I'm pretty sure it's just ADHD and not autism, just because I've never really struggled with social cues or emotional expression, but once I've been medicated for my ADHD for a while, I'm sure I'll start to see if I have anything else that raises alarm bells. Thank you. Can't you play games or whatever at the front desk? Why not just sit there the whole time? Then the bell controversy goes away. Not really. The desk is really small and can't really accommodate room for a laptop. And regardless, they don't want me to have my laptop out front. Now for the second update. I made a post here a while back about my manager taking away the bell I use at the front desk. Long story short, I like using the bell as it's an effective disability aid, and I was originally encouraged to use it. New management came in and said if I was caught using it again, disciplinary action would be taken. I told her it was a disability aid. She didn't care, so I took the issue to my GM, who began to grill me on why I hadn't disclosed my disability during my interview. Of course, she's not allowed to ask that. Legally, I'm not obligated to disclose, and she's not allowed to ask me to do so during the course of an interview. I CC'd HR in my response, explaining as much. However, nothing came of it, and eventually, the situation died down, though I still didn't get my bell back. However, apparently my email triggered a small investigation into the GM's behavior. Corporate began sniffing around and found that next to nothing in our hotel was compliant with corporate policy. And bonus money that should have been sent to front desk staff as a result of positive reviews mentioning them by name never actually made it to the staff. According to a co-worker of mine, the GM had to be escorted out of the building. I spoke with the new acting GM about everything, and he said he was excited to meet me because of the multiple glowing reviews he'd read that mentioned me by name. He's interested in equipping me with the skills to begin rising up the management ranks, and asked me to expand on things that would make my job easier. Among the many changes he's planning on implementing came my personal favorite bit of news. I got my bell back. I have ADHD. When I am hyper-focused, I tune out external sounds. I could imagine working in the back room and not realizing someone was calling. Usually, I am not as good at tuning out rare or unusual sounds, like a bell. Exactly this. I also feel it's just inappropriate to expect guests to holler to get my attention. While it was taken away, I had multiple guests walk into the back room to get my attention, which is startling and upsetting when you're in an employee-only area and expect it to be private. Girl, that's magic. I'm so happy for you and feel very humbled that I told you to run from that place. And was wrong. You have taught me something. Thank you. Oh, believe me, I was trying to run. Lol. I couldn't leave because I'm getting my health care through work and currently going through a lot of medical stuff. But I had been asking other hotels managed by the same company what they offered and if I'd be able to keep my current doctor if I were to get hired with them. Came into work today, expecting to get lectured for having to call out sick last week. Instead, had a lovely chat with a new manager who wouldn't shut up about how personable I am for a night auditor. Last story. Employers, careful what you ask for. I'm an emergency physician. I work in emergency departments in hospitals. It's an interesting specialty in medicine, with different patients every day, except for the frequent flyers, but that's another story. Now, especially in the winter time, emergency departments are full of people, usually with long wait times, and we take people in order of severity, not first come first served. So, I'm at work and get a new patient. The chart says, needs a work note. I go into the cubicle and see a patient who is obviously ill. After 40 years of experience, I can size patients up pretty well from across the room. This woman was ill. Her vitals were not good. Fever of 102 degrees Fahrenheit, the works. The monitor shows her heart is okay, pulse is a little high, BP is a little low, high fever. Talking to her, she tells me she's got a cold. Now, I tend to appreciate it when patients just tell me the truth. She didn't claim to have COVID, pneumonia, anthrax, don't ask, or anything but a cold. Which, being a virus, there's not a heck of a lot I can do for her. So I ask why she came in. Turns out she's been ill for 2 days. Her fever is actually down with her taking Tylenol and drinking fluids. No kidding. And her employer wants a doctor's note for more paid time off. This woman waited in the emergency department waiting room for, checks the record, 5.5 hours to get a goddamn note for work? Not her fault though, it's her employer's. So, I asked her how much time they will give her paid off. There's no limit, she said. I just need a doctor saying I need it. Got it. So, she went home with a lovely note giving her 2 weeks off with pay and instructions to return for additional time if she needs it to recover. I really hate employers that demand asinine notes like this. Fight the stupidity. Now for the top comments. I'm a physician in Brazil. Due to our labor laws, there's no absence for work without pay cut if you don't present a doctor's note. Some employers even demand ICD coding, which is unethical and abusive. I get a perverse pleasure when I can justify giving a longer leave to honest patients, together with a copy of the jurisprudence and how to talk firmly to the HR representative that they got no right to demand to know what the patient is on medical leave for. I can literally just text my doctor's office. I have a persistent cold and my 2 days of self-declaring is up. Need a note? My symptoms are ... And then I'll get a note within a few hours mailed electronically. If I claim to need a month, the doc would probably want to see me, but not for minor things. Well played. It's nice to see a doctor who really cares about patients. I have met a ton of physicians, and they all have patients as their #1 priority. They all hate how much money drives medicine and medical innovation, and all of them were willing to help however they could, if it meant more access to care and better treatments were available. Update. My friend's broke, so I offered him a job as a waiter. He turned it down, saying it's low and not respected. Today he approached me with some wild demands in order to accept my help. Original post. My friend is broke. He hasn't worked in over a year. He's running out of savings and has even had to ask his parents to support him. I've asked him many times why he doesn't try to get a job outside his field. He has a computer science degree, but has never worked a single day in the field since graduating. He's turned down lots of jobs because of various reasons. Either they don't pay him enough, or they won't give him a higher-up position right off the bat, etc. I'm well aware he's deluded in that sense, but he has many other good qualities, and that's why I love the guy. Since graduating, the only job he's done is share marketing, something like online investing in Forex. He claimed he made about $20 a day and that it was enough for him. We're not in the US. He's single, lives in a shared house, and doesn't spend much. Whatever makes him happy, right? The thing is, he's totally broke. I don't even think he's really making $20 a day on shares because he has completely run out of money. He's stressed out and won't stop complaining about his financial problems. This confuses me because I think his pride is preventing him from getting a job that doesn't fit his ego. I work as a server in a very nice restaurant and have offered him a job as a server many times. I have a great relationship with my boss, and after explaining my friend's situation, my boss immediately said he'd like to help and would offer him a full-time job. My friend has been turning it down for months without giving much of an explanation. Today he called me saying his parents had cut him off and asked to borrow money. I told him that as a personal rule, I do not lend money to anyone, but he was welcome to start working with me tomorrow. Once again, he turned down the offer. I got frustrated because I was offering him a solution to his money problem, but he refused to take it. We got into a bit of banter, and he finally confessed that he thinks being a server is low and doesn't earn you people's respect. I told him respect is earned by getting off your butt and doing whatever you have to do to make ends meet. I asked him if he thought I was low, and he backpedaled, saying he didn't mean I was low, but that the job itself was. Then he straight up told me that nobody can respect me for working as a waiter in my 30s. Wow. Honestly, I'm pretty upset. Does he really think I'm low for working as a server? I have a degree too, but I couldn't find a job in my field, so I took the first job I could. I'm not some prissy prick who thinks I'm too good to serve others. I take pride in being a waiter and doing a great job. His comments really hurt me. Why is he even my friend if he thinks I'm beneath him? I didn't want to say something nasty or get into an argument, so I told him he was being very offensive and that he needed time to think about what he had just said. He replied that there was nothing to think about, then gave me a list of other low jobs, like street sweeping, cleaning, etc., and said it was just a fact that those jobs aren't respected. I asked him to apologize before this turned into a full-blown argument, but he refused, saying he stood by what he said. I don't want to overreact, but I don't know if we can keep being friends after this. I really don't know what to do. I don't want to badmouth him, but he should take a hard look at his life and learn some empathy. I'm a very easygoing and forgiving person, but what he said was both idiotic and deeply hurtful. A man who refuses to work is calling me low? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Lol, being unemployed and asking your parents for money at 30 is lower than literally any job. Honestly, be happy he didn't took the job, because with that attitude, he wouldn't have lasted long and tarnished your reputation with it. I don't want to overreact, but I don't know if we can keep being friends after this. Honestly, don't keep him as a friend. Doesn't seem that you get much out of the friendship anyway. I always ask myself, if everything is okay, why is there any doubt? Your alarm bells are ringing, and for good reason. Don't ignore them. Why would you want to surround yourself with this dude? He has a crappy, arrogant view of work and life. He's turning down jobs because they won't hand him the highest position right off the bat. Come on, man. How out of touch do you have to be? I had a friend just like that. He always complained about not having money, yet he spent huge amounts on luxuries. I offered him a job as a field agent at my company and even set up an interview. The interviewer told him he needed to be available for calls from customers because they might have urgent problems. He told her he couldn't be available all the time because he has his own personal life and might be having sex with his girlfriend and couldn't answer. She was shocked and told him that was inappropriate. He didn't get the job, obviously. I was mad at him for saying such dumb stuff, but he insisted he was right. I told him he might have tarnished my reputation, and he kept insisting he stood up for his morals. I cut off contact with this a-hole. He didn't care about me, my reputation, or the fact that I set him up with a job interview. It was all about him. Good riddance. I would leave him to it. I had a very similar experience with a qualified graphic designer working in Oddbins, a wine shop. He'd been there 6 to 7 years since he graduated. As a favor to his big brother, a good mate of mine, I gave him a job in my agency. He was rude to customers, slow, late, and generally slack. We were a very social company, and I knew his brother, so I ended up socializing with him. At one point, he came to drum in my successful band. Things seemed like they were going great, until I upset him because he went through a filing cabinet and found out my personal assistant was paid more than him. Huge fight, and I offered him the same wage in the end just to shut him up. He worked for me another 6 months, acting grateful and working really hard, then left without warning, stealing all the clients he'd become kind to. If they are ungrateful now, imagine what they'll be like once they start resenting you because now you're their boss. Now for the update. So basically, he's very broke, and his parents have cut him off. I've been offering him a job at the restaurant I work at for months, and he has always turned it down. His situation got so bad that he came to me yesterday asking to borrow money. I don't lend money to anyone as a rule, but I told him there would always be a plate of food for him at my house, and he was welcome to accept the job offer and start working with me the very next day. Well, long story short, we had a bit of an argument, if you can even call it that, and he finally confessed that he thinks being a server is low and won't earn him people's respect. In an interesting turn of events, he called me today and said he had thought it through and had decided he was willing to accept the job, but only under one condition, as if he were the one doing me a favor. His demand that he be made manager right off the bat. Oh, and he also wanted to move in with me so that I could drive him to work, because the bus ride from his house to my workplace takes 35 minutes, and that's over an hour of commuting a day. He then suggested that I move my youngest daughter into my elder daughter's room so that he could have an empty bedroom in my house. So clearly he had given this some thought. I was dumbfounded. The level of entitlement and pride you have to make those kinds of demands is astonishing. I know he's never had a proper job, but he's not stupid. He has to know you can't just be made a manager when you don't even know the names of the dishes or how to serve a coffee. It's all about his pride. His ego's even bigger than I thought. He can't be humble enough to accept a waiter job and work his way up. He needs to be made a manager so that it won't hurt his pride as much. To be honest, I was so at a loss for words that I just said, "I don't want to talk," and hung up. I can't explain how off-putting that conversation was. I feel repelled by him, disgusted even. Something has changed inside me. I can't have a person like him in my life anymore. What makes a person refuse all help just out of sheer pride? My wife says I've been patient and kind enough to him throughout the years, and that I should let him figure things out on his own. He really is broke. Before his parents cut him off, they were covering his rent and bills, and he survived on the $20 a day he claimed to be making investing in Forex. I know he barely eats, can't even afford a new pair of shoes, and is struggling in other ways. He has no money, so why won't he accept the job? He's not shy, he has no mental health issues, and he has no problem dealing with people. He has refused many other jobs in the past, even jobs related to his degree, computer science. He has this delusional idea that he deserves higher-up positions right from the start because he's him. That's why he hasn't worked a single day since graduating nearly a decade ago. Anyway, I need to do some deep thinking and reevaluate this friendship because I don't like the person he's becoming. His dad is a bus driver, and his mother is a retired teacher. They are lovely, humble, down-to-earth people, and I think they did the right thing by cutting him off. I know they're both struggling financially, so it's not fair for their son to leech off them. His mother even had to go back to work, doing some tutoring just to make extra money to support him. I'd be ashamed if I made my 70-year-old mother go back to work, just so I could sit at home dreaming of landing the perfect job, while doing nothing to actually get one. Anyway, I'm rambling. Sorry, I'm just so mad. My wife says it's time to cut the cord and distance ourselves from him. I think she might be right. That's wild. Dude doesn't have any work experience and thinks a CS degree with no practical knowledge entitles him to managerial role. Well, the same kind of guy who has a CS degree when those skills were in really high demand and highly compensated/favorable, but still turned down all the job offers in favor of being unemployed. Trouble is, after 10 years of unemployment with a CS degree, no one will want him now. Even if he applies for a junior IT job, people would rightfully be suspicious of him. Plus, I doubt he's kept up to date in the field. IT degrees age like milk. Don't get this guy a job where you work. He will end up making you look bad. Yep, I unfortunately got my sister a job with me once, even though I knew she had always been fired for not showing up or listening to authority. I thought maybe working together she could see how hard I work and do the same. Nope, she completely walked all over me and refused to do what I told her, even though I was her direct supervisor. She worked about a month before getting fired for attendance issues. I was so embarrassed to have recommended her and for being related to her. I have found that the people that want me to recommend them for a job are usually the type of person you really don't want to give a recommendation for. Next story. Treating my coworker differently after she accused me of making her uncomfortable when I covered for her at work. I, 30 male, work in an office with a small team. A few months ago, my coworker Samantha, 28 female, had an emergency and had to leave work early. She was supposed to finish a report that was due the next morning, so she asked if I could help cover for her. I had some extra time, so I finished up her report and sent it in under both of our names to make sure she got credit. The next day, she thanked me, but seemed kind of off. A couple of days later, I was called into HR. Turns out, Samantha had filed a complaint saying that my taking over her work without explicit permission made her uncomfortable, and that it felt like I was trying to undermine her. I was utterly confused because, 1, she had asked for help, and 2, I didn't take credit away from her. HR conducted an investigation, and after a week they cleared me. But the whole thing shook me. I never expected that helping a coworker would land me in trouble. After that, I kept things strictly professional with Samantha. I still say hello and work with her when needed, but I don't chat with her casually, offer to help, or include her in group outings anymore. She's noticed and confronted me about it, saying I'm treating her unfairly and being cold. She explained that she was just setting a boundary and didn't mean for HR to investigate so seriously. I told her I understand, but I need to protect myself too, so I'm just being more cautious now. She said I was being dramatic and should move on. Inform HR of the conversation before you are accused of creating a hostile work environment. She's already stabbed you in the back once. Any further communication should go through traceable means like texts or emails. If not, document it and reach out to HR. Not necessarily to report her, but to seek counsel on how to maintain a professional relationship with someone who has previously reported you. She started the whole issue over pride, and yet OP is the dramatic one? There's almost no way for HR to have known what happened without her reporting it, so saying she didn't mean for HR to investigate so seriously is disingenuous. If it was a small issue, she should have talked to you personally. She made it a big issue and you're properly treating it as one. She knew. She was covering her behind in case the victim let it slip that he was covering for her. Yeah, she knew what she was doing. Now she's just upset OP isn't playing along. Literally going through this at work. A coworker lost her absolute mind and went off on the whole office. She knew she messed up and apologized, but some of us felt like her screaming and cursing went too far this time. So what did she do? She went to HR first and pulled every card she could. This was super hurtful because we were friends and had covered for her for a long time. Now HR is doing an investigation and she's in the hot seat. She's furious. I and others feel betrayed, and it's just a crappy situation. Never thought I'd be in this position, but here we are. Last story. Told my roommate to move out after she risked my life to prove a point. I, 25 female, have two roommates, Jenny and Abby. Jenny started noticing her food going missing and blamed both of us. I didn't eat any of her food, so I wasn't super worried. Yesterday, Jenny called a roommate meeting. When we were off work, she sat us down and told Abby that she wanted to be paid back for the food that had gone missing. Abby started arguing, saying it wasn't her and that it was probably me. That's when Jenny said it couldn't have been me, because she had been putting nuts into her food and in her stuff, even in food that doesn't make sense to have nuts in it, because I'm severely allergic to them. She said I couldn't have done it because I'd be dead. She said it all proud, like she had caught Abby, but I literally felt sick. I could have died, like genuinely died. An EpiPen isn't a cure. You still have to go to the hospital and it's bad. Also, they're really expensive to replace. She was willing to risk my life over $30 of food. She and I argued, and she said she knew it wasn't me, so that's why she did it, but I don't believe her. I told her to move out, and now both Abby and Jenny are mad at me. But it's my life. It's my name on the apartment. I'm fairly certain I'm justified in kicking her out, but I'm double-checking. It feels absolutely insane that I could lose a 4-year friendship over something that wasn't even my fault. Abby is mad at me and says I'm overreacting, but she also doesn't want to move out, so she's at least somewhat on my side. Jenny's angry and not speaking to me. I told her she has 30 days to get out of the apartment. Even if you had been taking her food, she was willing to unalive you to prove it. That's insane. I know it's kind of a moot point since you didn't eat her food, but she couldn't have known that with 100% certainty. She bet your life on the 50% chance it wasn't you. That's not okay. Right? What if OP had a sugar crash and just needed a bite of something and intended to pay her back, but wasn't the usual culprit? A necessary danger. I'd kick her too for being so reckless. Yep, she treated OP's life like it was disposable. That's not a good friend or roommate. I would also kick Abby out for blaming you for something she knew she did. Having to cover rent while replacing two roommates at the same time could be a challenge. Kick one out, let the other think she's safe. Replace her, kick the other one out. Replace her. Easy fix. Am I the a-hole for not giving my sister money out of my unborn children's bank account? I'm 28 female, have been married to my husband, 29 male, for 7 years. We were high school sweethearts and tied a knot as soon as we felt it was right in our adulthood. We always knew we wanted to have a family with 2 kids, 3 at most, but we didn't want to just start having babies without doing everything we possibly can to prepare. So immediately after we got married, we made 2 joint accounts, one for our shared finances and one for our future children. We would both work pretty decent jobs, and we have been putting $200 to $300 out of our paychecks into the account for our future children, plus all the other money that we received outside of work, birthdays, gifts, etc. That account is now sitting at a pretty decent amount of money. My sister is under some financial strain at the moment. Not too long ago, she got in a car accident where she totaled her vehicle and the other driver's vehicle. It was her fault, but everyone's okay. And she didn't have insurance. Now it is basically impossible for her to get affordable insurance, and she is paying out of pocket for the damages to the other party's vehicle/medical bills. My parents called me yesterday and asked me to come and see them, so I did. When I arrived, they sat me down and proceeded to ask me if I could give my sister $10,000 out of the account for my future children. Without hesitation, I said no, and they called me inconsiderate and a bad sister. I explained to them that my husband and I have been saving that money for the last 7 years to prepare for our future family, and that is just not a decision I can make. That my sister is facing the consequences of her own actions, and I shouldn't have to put up money that I have been saving for mistakes she made. They aren't seeming to see it from my point of view, and clearly not seeing how ridiculous of a request that is. They said it won't hurt since I don't plan on getting pregnant anytime soon, and that they will work up a way to pay us back. But I stood firm in my decision, and I told them that my sister made her bed by driving irresponsibly, and now she has to lie in it. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Tell your parents that she's their kid, and the money is for your kids. They even know about the account and how much you have in there? It's not anyone's business what you do with your finances, except for you and your husband. Yes, stop telling people how much money you have. It's not their business. After reading Reddit for 2 years, I can't believe how many people blab their personal finances to their family. All that does is bring out the moochers. Zip it. Just tell your parents you talked to your sister and you guys worked things out. This does 2 things. Kills their current request for money and puts them on notice that you two have no problem talking about money issues, which heads off any further asks for money. I actually really love this idea. Edit/update. Thank you for all the kind comments and helping me see things from all perspectives. I'm editing this because I have recently been in contact with my sister about this, and she had no clue that my parents were going to ask me for such a large amount of money, let alone any money at all. She said that she asked them for assistance, about $500, but she's paid off majority of the costs of the damages. It only needs about $3,000 until the damages are completely paid off. She's also said she's not worried about getting a new car right now because her boyfriend's mother is letting her use her old one that is not being used otherwise. She also said she has never asked them for assistance on this specific matter anytime before the other day. So that leaves me puzzled as to why they need 10 grand if my sister owes a little under 3 grand for the damages, and if they were even going to use the money to help my sister in the first place. My sister reiterated to me that she would never ask for that kind of money, especially knowing how expensive children are. She has one of her own. So that poses another question. Do I confront my parents about lying to me? Update 2. Sorry for the wait. I spoke with my husband and we decided not to confront my parents. That whatever financial burden they're dealing with is not our business, nor do we care. We won't be giving out any money from any of our accounts. I believe my sister will confront our parents for using her in their lie. If that happens, I will update again. Also, my sister and I are not estranged, but we don't talk much because our relationship has no depth, because we've never had anything in common. Music tastes, style, boys, etc. I've never been able to relate to her and vice versa. I love her dearly though. I call her to check on my nephew periodically, but she lives 45 minutes away, so I don't visit often and vice versa. There were a lot of comments about sharing my finances with my parents. I was 21 when I discussed this with them, just thinking I was harmlessly informing my parents about my plans for their future grandchildren. I agree with all of you when you say I shouldn't have done that. I know this topic will come around again, and I plan on ignoring it. Again, I would like to thank you all for your input in my dilemma. It was greatly appreciated. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not giving my sister her share of the college fund? Plus update. Original post. A little backstory. We came from an extremely sexist family. For example, my brother got a car, 75% of our parents' estate, a big farm, lands, and all the machinery for it, and they paid for his college. My oldest sister had to take out loans so she can finish her education, while I never went to college because of my undiagnosed ADHD. Now I'm in therapy and start to become okay-ish, but I have money because of sheer dumb luck. My younger sister, 22, female, started college 2 years ago. My parents offered to pay to rent a room after she didn't get a scholarship and a room in the dorms. I offered her to pay her scholarship and some extra for groceries, stating that I put aside college fund for all girls in our family. My 2 daughters, my sister, a younger cousin, and a niece. This is just one account, and in my will, it stated it has to be divided between these girls for college expenses. My little sister is the oldest, and everybody else is between 6 to 12, and the ones who already finished college by the time I died gets nothing from that account. If I have more nieces, I'll add them too. Now to the problem. My sister decided to drop out, get pregnant and marry, planned with her boyfriend/fiancé of 6 months. I try not to be disappointed, I am, but I shut the heck up in real life about it. Today was the big announcement. I knew it beforehand, so I could act all happy, and after the lunch, she pulled me aside and asked to be left over to her college fund. I explained to her that there is no her fund. I already did this when she started college, and I'll be happy to pay for her tuition if she goes back someday. But she has to give me proof that she does go to college, because she pocketed the last semester's payment because she failed to inform me about her dropping out, and I had sent her the money. She freaked out because she counted on that money for down payment for a 3-bedroom apartment, co-owning with her fiancé, but I stood firm in my decision. She accused me of trying to control her with my money and punishing her because she chose a different path in life, being a stay-at-home mom and not having a career. Our mom pointed out that it wasn't really feminist of me to not support her in this. Now for the comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. You said you'd pay for college. She's not in college, and you're willing to pay if she chooses to go back, which makes you definitely not the a-hole. Your sister is seeing this as you giving her money because you've been sending her money to cover costs, and money's fungible. She's wrong, but I see how she came to that conclusion. I'd suggest if you want to avoid this sort of problems with the other people you are supporting, maybe ask them to send you the bill and instructions for how to pay it. With regard to your mom, I'm sure you've told her in the past how sexist she was about her disposition of educational support to your siblings. She's using your known vulnerability, your engagement with feminist ideas, to get a bit of revenge, which is horrible for her. Yeah, I'm definitely going to be more careful about this when my cousin reaches that age. She's next. If you are continuing with this college fund, pay the school directly, not the a-hole. I don't know what tax law is like in your country, OP, but in the US, paying for someone's tuition directly to the institution is a way to get around lifetime gift taxes for the recipient. In the US, gifts up to a certain amount per year is non-taxable for the recipient, but many tuitions are more expensive than that per year. So if you gave the money to the student to give to the school, they would be on the hook for paying taxes on some of that money. If you pay the school directly, then it doesn't count as gift or taxable income for the student. If something like this is the case in your country too, it might be much better for your cousin to have you pay directly anyway. Not the a-hole. How are you controlling her with money that isn't hers? That's just weird. The money is a college fund, not a down payment on a condo fund. And she's already stolen from you. Tell her to take it out of the money she already pocketed. Turns out she thought it's hers, and if she has a daughter, she's going to get added on that list. We had a smaller argument about this, because she asked what if it's a boy? And well, he's going to be a first his generation, and every great-grandparents of his is going to lose their freaking mind over it on our side of the family, and probably fiancé's side too. Not the a-hole. Go low contact with her. We already are. She knows I'm disappointed, and that I didn't think much of her fiancé. Now for the update. I decided to give you guys an update about the situation with some extra info. About the last semester's payment, little sister offered to pay me back. It's sitting on her account, but I just gifted it to her as baby and wedding contribution for me. And the college fund was a full misunderstanding. She actually thought that it's going to be divided between all girls while I'm alive. I explained to her why it's not gonna happen, and went into great details about our older sister's college experience, and she was actually horrified. So it's all good between us, but I'm gonna be a little distant. About my family, we are a deeply traumatized family in a traumatized country. Read a little about Hungary's history. We're having generational trauma for breakfast. I had a long talk with Mom. She tried to act happy at first about my sister's plan, but she broke down eventually. She's worrying too because sister is making the same bad decisions that Mom and I did. And this is why she wanted to get every help my sister she could think of, panicked, and became passive-aggressive towards me. Right now, we try to come up with a plan, how to help my sis without helping my soon-to-be douche brother-in-law. Even my father is against this guy and the marriage, but he tries to be nice because he's afraid he's gonna lose my little sister too. And a few words about Mr. Douche, my future brother-in-law. He's already trying to isolate my sister, who has a codependent personality and wants to play house with anybody who's willing to try it. Hard to watch this crap show, but when everything unfolds, she needs to know she got me, and Mom, maybe even Dad too, in her corner. Me? Douche is careful with me, because they need the money, but still tried some crap steering with me. We'll see what happens next, but one thing for sure, after they split, 1 to 2 marriages ends in divorce over here, so the chances are high. I'm gonna find my sister a good therapist. Betty A. Hat dips out when he finds out the sister isn't bringing her college fund with her to the marriage. Nah, because he still will end up with a free bangmaid. The Hungarian majority lives either below or very freaking close to the poverty line and hold extremely sexist views. So the fact that he will get a maid he can bang anytime while drinking away any money is a pretty cheery future a man here can ask for. I remember instantly falling in love with my husband when he, without prompting, started to dust or do the dishes and give me a painkiller when I was on my period. It's pretty freaking basic, but also it's pretty freaking hard to find as well. Where's brother, and why does he have 75% of his parents' estate? I'm also impressed that OP didn't throw in their mother's face about where was feminism when Big Sis lived in roach-infested apartment. And where is Big Sis too? It sounds like a bastardized version of the primogeniture still practiced here. The family seat, titles, and money goes to the firstborn male, the entire estate, in order that wealth isn't broken up into ever smaller pieces with each generation until, the horror, nobody can pay for the maintenance costs of their castle or their family's traditional seat in the countryside. Thus, they have to sell it. But Hungary was part of the USSR, and they abolished the inheritance of property. So there is no long line of inheritance and loss. And the parents are still alive. They just gave away their land to their son? After we left the Soviet Union, there was a redistribution of land based on the original property ownerships. So yes, the line of inheritance is still there. Usually what happens is that the kids just take over from the parents and the parents retire, but they still own the land. They just write a will if they don't want their kids to inherit evenly. I have a friend that grew up like this. Her father was Serbian and so is her husband. Her parents paid for her brother to be a doctor and the other one a chiropractor, while she got nothing. Her parents expected her to get married and not have a profession. She put herself through nursing school, and her brother paid for her master's degree. She's now getting her doctorate, and she was a director at the University of Pennsylvania. Now she goes to rehab hospitals around the country and evaluates them. Moral of the story, some women wants to be more and nothing will stop them. Not even misogynistic parents. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not supporting my sister's plan to be a single mom by choice? My 30 male sister, 32 female, recently got out of a 7-year relationship after being cheated on. She was sure that she was going to marry this guy. She's wanted to be a mom for a while, but was waiting to be married. A couple nights ago, she came over to my house and had dinner with my family. After the kids went to bed, she told me and my wife about her plan to have a kid via sperm donor. I think she thought I was going to be happy for her, but I was not. I told her I can't believe that after growing up without a father in the household because our dad died when we were very young, she would purposely put kids in that situation. It seems incredibly selfish. She said she's prepared to do it alone and has strong men to be role models around, including me. I told her not to rely on me as a major role model, as my wife and I are strongly considering moving abroad before our kids start school. My wife is an EU citizen, and we may move to be closer to her family in Europe. Suffice to say, the rest of the conversation didn't go well. She stormed out, and yesterday was texting me how disappointed in me she was. I basically told her sorry if I was harsh, but I 100% believe everything I said. I just can't imagine purposely bringing a kid into a disadvantaged situation like that just because she's not sure if she'll ever find a partner again. You can disagree all you want, and you shouldn't be forced into a father figure. But if you think that a child has a better life just because it has 2 parents, that's just crazy. My parents divorced when I was 2 years old, and my mother was my primary provider and she raised me without my father. And I have an amazing life, and I'm an amazing person because of my mother, and I grew up without a male figure around. My first male figure came into my life when I was 11 years old in the form of my stepdad. Don't put down single mothers because you don't believe in it or grew up in a tough way. But it is a lot easier with two involved parents versus one. The key is both need to be involved. Sure, I was raised by a single mother for years, and it's rough. We were fine, sister and I mostly, but really hard on my mom. I have a friend who married a POS, had 2 kids with him and then divorced. She is a fantastic mom, and her kids are far better off without their father in their lives, but she has it hard. There was no downtime when you are a single parent. Everything starts and stops with you, and it can be really exhausting and relentless. When you have a dependable, involved partner, you can beg off when you need to. Whether it's because you had a tough day at work, are tired, or not feeling it, whatever. You can also divide and conquer. One parent handles school drop-offs, one parent handles appointments, one parent buys clothing, one parent takes care of lunches. You alternate who stays home with a sick child, etc. When you're a single parent, you do all of it all the time, and it is not easy.